Welcome, everyone. They put us back in the corner because they knew we were the loose cannon, so we're way in the back. Hope you're woken up from your lunch. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I'm Gus Gostila, and I look after cultivating our relationships with the venture capital and startup community on behalf of Google and Android, Google Play and Android. And my colleague is Ellie Powers, who'll take the second half, who leads our developer product team here. The two of us have been spending a lot of time with startups this year, so I'd like to ask how many people work at startups who are in the crowd. Get a show of hands. Awesome, like it's less than 100 people kind of companies. That's great, you're in the right place. We're here to talk to you about how many of you are succeeding on Google Play and why more and more are launching on Android and sim shipping your apps. And to start, you could say this is a bit of a passion area for me personally. I spent a good chunk of my career at mobile startups, most recently ones like Inkling and Flipboard. And now I get to sit on the other side of the fence where my team is focused exclusively on helping startups succeed and making it feel like less of a black art. So while the team is new, in just the last few months, it's already become obvious to Ellie and myself that there are some recurring themes we hear from startups that come to Android, and so we'd like to discuss those with you here. Specifically, we broke the recurring themes down into 3 buckets that we would label as follows: reach, the next billion, and iteration. And we'll spend our time drilling down on how to get the most out of those. And we'll also share 3 case studies of startups who are really representing those themes well and demonstrating best practices in these areas. So let's get started with reach in the first billion before we go on to the next billion. You've probably heard of Benedict Evans over at Andreessen Horowitz. He's one of my personal favorite mobile pundits in the mobile tech world, and he's prolific with his dispatches on subject of mobile eating the world. So a few months ago, he said this: mobile is the first universal tech product. And he was referring to the data on the following slide. And he points out some projections from various sources, specifically global population on the left of nearly 8 billion people projected in 2020, and the population of people over 16 years old at 6 billion. And finally, smartphones projected at 5 billion in 2020, way further on the left. And the expected growth you can see in purple between 2015 and 2020. His point is, and my point is, that smartphones are starting to get close to nearly reaching everyone on the planet. And that's kind of a big deal. It's pretty profound and non-trivial when you consider how little effort is required to make and sell products that reach nearly everyone. And there's never really been a similar kind of product or platform. Sure, Coca-Cola, bicycles, and refrigerators are neat too, and they have great reach, but they're not quite the same democratizing platforms for allowing the world to communicate, transact, and disseminate information in quite the same way. So now when we think about Android and how it factors into that global reach, last year Android crossed a pretty huge threshold with over 1 billion devices shipped around the world. And now you can see us logging in 1.4 billion 30-day actives. And we've seen 1.5 million Android devices being activated daily, and a continued platform momentum of 400 OEMs and 500 operators on the platform. It's pretty incredible that Play was launched just over 4 years ago. While Android is expanding the footprint of device availability, Play is helping developers build businesses across the globe, and it's growing pretty fast in its own right. Way back when I was in your shoes, back at mobile app startups, and Android was just getting started, in the echo chamber here in the Valley, it was still kind of fashionable to pick on Android and say it lacked billion-dollar startup success stories. And then something funny happened. Companies like WhatsApp and Uber, Line, King, Flipkart, Spotify, Supercell started sprouting up in these insane growth trajectories and have become massive global brands in their own right. Ask any of those companies now if Android is important to their business, and I think they'll agree. My point is this: my experience at startups made it clear that a founder's job is fundamentally to challenge the status quo thinking and observe what is changing around you. Ask yourself what you know to be true in the future and execute relentlessly on your vision. So in that light, I'd ask you all to take a hard look at Android when you're getting started on your next idea and consider how reach might factor heavily into your startup's growth objectives. Of course, many of you have already asked these questions, and that's why you're here today. And so keep plugging away on Android. That's awesome. Once you've made your Android platform decision, what should you do next to realize the full benefits of smartphone reach? Well, there's a couple things you need to know to get there. In our experience, these are the first few things you should be thinking about building for reach. So let's begin with material. The last session was all about material, and there was, code on slides and all that stuff. We're not going to do that here today. But I did want to point this one out because maybe it's not immediately obvious, but material has been crucial for startups trying to attain reach. And in that, material offers one universal language for navigation and interaction that is becoming second nature for Android users. And I myself, having come from those startups, I was skeptical about material when they first told me about it, and felt like our app should look the same across all platforms and that kind of thing. But basically what I've learned is that by using material, you've already had a huge head start on using a design that most of those billion-plus users around the world already understand, and in a way that is so prevalent that it's now making its way onto other platforms as well. As a result, developers are seeing leaps in engagement and conversion rates across the board when they implement it. And you can see some of the great examples here. Apps like Fablik, Music Match, Trello, seeing some notable increases in time and activity in their apps. And so, yes, material is cool, but also think from the business side about it being this common language that everybody gets. While startups told us material design was cool when we first announced it, you also told us that it was a little hard to know where to get started and that you wanted more resources to make building material apps easier. And so we totally heard you, and over the past few years, we've been rolling out a bunch of new resources that you can find at design.google.com. I won't go into all the details of all these things here, given the last presentation probably went into great depth there, but that's a hub you can go find resources from. Another thing a lot of startups worry about when they're approaching Android for the first time is device compatibility. Last year at Google I/O, we announced Cloud Test Lab in beta, and this year we're taking the training wheels off and moving it into Firebase. And as you'd expect, Firebase Test Lab is integrated with many different tools so you can bring it into your workflow easily. I'm sure some of you have probably been to other sessions on Firebase already, and I would urge you as a startup to really think about this platform because it's got so many different things in it wrapped up into one great package, whereas companies that are a little further along tend to specialize in the tools they use. So Firebase is especially well suited to startups who are just figuring it out. In Google Play, all alpha and beta apps are tested against a representative range of devices profiles in the cloud. This test is completely automated, so you don't need to write test scripts. You can detect where there are any obvious issues on these devices before rolling out your app to all users. And you can now enable this from within the dev console. The best part of the base level of this is that it's totally free, which is awesome. After trying the pre-launch report in the dev console, the next thing developers say they want is to run exactly the set of tests they want on a specific set of devices. And there'll be a way to do that too. You'll be able to write custom test scripts and run them on physical or virtual devices you choose. And you can even do that from Android Studio, your other continuous integration systems. Once you have a good sense that your product is working, another great way to grow reach is to obviously expand to other countries globally. You'll need to think about localizing your app and your Play Store listing. From within the dev console, we provide tools and recommendations to help you translate your app across global markets. Take Netflix, for example. They recently had a lot of press about globalizing their app. And they didn't just translate their title and app description, but also made sure screenshots and video trailers accurately represented the app in all markets. Pricing, also an area you want to consider to make sure your price translates for local expectations, making sure your price doesn't look like it's like $1.73 like here, or the cultural equivalent of that, which differs by country, what the sort of standards are around pricing, and so we help you figure that out automatically. For example, we saw a 2x lift, you can see here, in Japan for those that rounded to the nearest yen. So this is pretty cool. So now that you've heard more about tactical advice on extracting benefits of reach out of Android, let's hear more from a startup developer who's been capitalizing on some of those opportunities. WeVideo is a startup right here in our backyard and has some relevant experience to share.
WeVideo was founded with the vision of making digital storytelling and video creation accessible to anyone, anywhere. So when we first started on Android, we clearly saw that there wasn't a compelling application for video creation. Combine that with the fast growth of Android platforms, we decided to go Android first. Since then, the majority of our investment in smartphone development has been on Android. What separates us from other applications on Android is that we give you the full capability of the device in our application. You're able to take different clips, trim them, and we were able to do that because the Android platform gave us access to the OpenGL layer, which allowed us to do real-time rendering and previewing. Since the launch of our new application, mobile monetization has done very well for us. The revenue on Android has doubled every 2 months. Almost 85% of our users are on Android. With the launch of Material Design, we decided to redo the application and redo the user experience and take it up to the next level.
Many of the material design concepts really resonated with us. We were really able to create a delightful experience for our users. And as a result, we saw a 100% increase in user engagement. Being able to reply to reviews is a great feature. Every day we go through every single review and analyze the data that's coming in. And most importantly, if there is somebody who's having a problem, we can help right away. And it's such a great feeling when you can see someone who gave you 1-star reviews, converting that to 4 or 5 stars. We love running experiments on the Play Store. For example, just recently, we updated our screenshots. We tweaked the colors, the text, and we saw an increase in conversion up to 50%. Making the app available in different languages is critical for you to succeed in global market. We saw an increase in our installs up to 200% in some regions after we localized our app and the Play Store description. Recently, we revisited our purchasing flow in the app. We wanted to see if we can convert more people to buy our premium products. We decided to change colors of the background, font size, layout of the elements. We were able to deploy quickly and iterate just within a few days. And we saw the increase up to 60% in conversion rate.
The Android platform has been a great platform for us to iterate through our application. With a fast app publishing process, Play Store listing experiments, feedback from users, and monetization using Google Wallet, this has led to a tremendous increase in success with installs and revenue.
Cool. So we talked a little bit about reach and the last billion. So let's talk about getting to the next billion. That will likely come online for the first time on mobile in emerging markets. In a sense, we've been spoiled by tech in the developed world, and while we are valeting our cars, Ubering around town, ordering dinner delivery, and frolicking with a spirit guide butcher in the Black Rock Desert, it's easy to forget that phones being purchased in the developing world could be somebody's first computer, first source of books, education, health advice, access to e-commerce, news, microfinance, or entrepreneurial inspiration. While it might feel like these markets are behind, leapfrogging opportunities are being created as some are learning to transact globally for the first time on mobile, not desktop. And hence their behavior is mobile first by default. Fred Wilson at Union Square Ventures recently called out this opportunity in a blog post called The Second Smartphone Revolution, where he was specifically referencing the transformational mobile impact in emerging markets. And he asked whether the winners in the next phase would come from Silicon Valley or from the local developing world. It's up to you to find out, but I'm incredibly excited to see how both sets of founders go and solve some of the incredible new challenges in emerging markets with their apps. Coincidentally, he too referenced Benedict Evans in that article here, who says, "Yes, everyone," and points out that the incredible reach of mobile as a percentage of coverage of the African population is surpassing even grid electricity and soon clean water. He also points out the role of Android and its affordability, which helps drive this transformational reach and access. Consider that while the developed world has created a lot of solutions for first world problems and is closer to reaching device saturation, there's a lot of blank space for expansion in the developing world where the next billion will come from, and where the problems outside of our little echo chamber can be far more profound and life-changing to solve. In other words, a whole new wave of innovation is just beginning, not just at the level of luxury and convenience, but from the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs all the way to the top. Putting that back in context of reach to real people, the projections are that 1.2 billion new users will come online in emerging markets by 2018. So what can you do to reach them with your new ideas? First, understand some of the constraints and best practices designed for. We've done a lot of talking here this week about the next billion, but obviously the slower data connections, users that pay as they go, paying closer attention to their consumption, disconnected scenarios and opportunities for offline modes and caching, low-end devices with different, lower storage and battery specs mean you'll want to keep APK update sizes small and other notable things. Which brings me to some things we have done recently with Play to eat our own dog food and develop solutions to some of these challenges ourselves. Specifically, we've been working to automatically make the store more efficient for you, given the constraints I just shared. First, we've been improving our identification and promotion of locally relevant apps. If your app meets the needs of emerging markets, and for example, works well on slow connections, supports local languages, we'll make sure users find your app. Second, we've been working to make the store more data efficient. So Google Play is investing in making updates smaller. As you can see here, when you update your app, Play computes the difference from the older version. We've also updated the store UI to show the delta in size that needs to be downloaded by the user instead of the entire app size. Updates can be really small, and so this helps users get less nervous about the size of the download. Last but not least, payments. In the last 12 months, we enabled 61 new forms of payment in 32 markets, which means that 400 million people have access to a new form of payment. Just to zoom in on one example of a rollout of DCB, direct carrier billing, in Indonesia, you can see the crazy inflection point here where we rolled it out represents a 4x increase in buyer growth. We've seen very similar results in other countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. We recommend running promotions in your apps to get a share of that excitement when we launch new payment support in those countries. As I mentioned, you can sell your app in 130 countries. Not surprisingly, the more locally relevant payment methods we add, the more users become buyers. And you can see some of the specific uplift metrics here, most notably 30% year-over-year growth in developers' international sales, and some big movements here in various markets like Germany, Russia, and Hong Kong. Purchasing behavior in particular varies significantly between markets, so to provide developers with more flexibility, we've worked to adapt Google Play pricing options to better suit local purchasing power parity levels and make content more accessible. Following a successful pilot in India earlier this year, today developers have the option to reduce the price of their premium titles and in-app products in 17 more countries to new minimum thresholds like the ones you can see here. In this example, you can see the impact of lower prices more in line with local markets resulted in a 136% increase, a spike in orders, which overcame the drop in price with volume. for an overall gain of 27% in revenue. So you're absolutely reaching more people and still making more money. So with that, I hope you're starting to get the sense of this theme of how relentlessly our teams are working to pass along big improvements to the platform and how passionate we are about investing in our developer community. I'd like to transition into another startup story, this time Sendy, based in Kenya, solving for challenges of local delivery in very crowded cities like Nairobi. Go ahead and play.
Sendy is a Kenyan company. We connect customers and logistics providers. What we've done differently is figuring out the last mile logistics, which is a problem in most developing countries. I mean, we don't have things like addresses here.
Being able to use technology to solve a problem that really nobody has been able to solve in this region is probably the most exciting bit. Sendy has 2 Android apps, one for the customers and one for the drivers. Great thing about Sendy is you're able to drop pins for your pickup and drop-off locations, so it's easier for you to identify it on a map rather than entering an actual address.
We went with Android because majority of the users in Kenya, East Africa, is Android phones, and the fact that the process of actually doing that continuous deployment to customers is much faster than other platforms.
As a startup that is constantly trying new things, we tend to roll out features a lot. A cool feature in the Google Play Developer Console is the alpha and beta testing groups. We normally roll out our new versions of the app to groups that help us test and get as many bugs as possible before the app goes into final release. Most people love it when the UI flow is as easy to use as possible. Material design offers a very simple language for people to understand, and we found that most Kenyans appreciate it. When developing apps for the Kenyan market, there are certain things that you need to consider. You need to make sure that your APK size is not too large because most people don't have a lot of storage space. You also need to check the amount of data your app is using because people are very sensitive of the amount of data they use. Battery usage is also very important. People don't have the luxury of plugging in their phones all the time.
One of the key things is also building trust among your users. So one of the things we did in the beginning is provide free delivery to customers. The other way of building trust is making sure that we keep the customer on the know where the drivers is through our Android app.
The way we've utilized the Google Play Developer Console to establish user trust is that first, we make sure that our ratings on the Play Store are high. We also rely on statistics such as the number of crashes per app version. That is very helpful for me as a developer to know what bugs I should escalate and fix as quickly as possible.
I think integrating local payments is very, very key as well to the success of customers using your product. Over 90% of our customers pay for our services using mobile money. So we have been seeing very exponential growth within the company. We've grown from a team of 3 to right now a team of about 23 people.
Being able not only to have an impact to the end user, but also to the drivers in our platform. So giving them an income that they weren't able to earn a few months ago is really something that is touching for me as a person. I feel that we are driving the economy in the littlest way possible, but we are still driving the economy, which is enough for me.
So cool. I just love, we get so wrapped up in the stuff in our backyard here in Silicon Valley, and it's awesome to see startups all over the world solving very diverse sets of problems. And I just see that there's so much more opportunity there for the next phase. If the next billion in emerging markets is of strong interest to you, I'd also encourage you to stick around for the next session, which will go into detail on initiatives and progress we are making to open up those markets. Next up is Ellie, who you might recognize from the keynote on Instant Apps yesterday and then Play stuff this morning. Ellie, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Gus. So one of the most exciting things that Gus alluded to a little bit earlier that my team has been doing this year is, we make Google Play and the developer console for so many different types of developers, right? Big companies, small companies, countries here in Mountain View, countries in Kenya, all sorts of different developers. And the new emphasis we really put on in this past year was to work with startups specifically. And so Gus's team has had a big outreach program where we try to go and actually meet with more startups like all of you to understand, what information do you need to be successful? And also for my team, how can we go and refine the products that we offer to all of you? And so what I'm here to talk about today is basically this idea of iteration, right? And here at Google, we got really, famous for, having Gmail as a beta for a long time. We didn't know what color to make the links on google.com search a decade ago, so we ran experiments, right? We love to be data-driven, we love to iterate, we love to try new things, but also get a lot of user feedback in order to improve. And we think that that's something that even now that we're a big company that we have in common with a lot of startups. And so we want to make it really possible for all of you to be able to do the same things, to be able to gather user feedback really easily, which, as you know, is so critical in the early days of your company. And also to be able to try new things, iterate rapidly, and be able to get them out for users again. So we really want to empower all of you. And so what we're going to do is to go through a couple of the different products. Some of them were mentioned in some of the videos before, to really talk about what you should know about as a startup. And the reason we're giving this talk is we have a lot of people that we run into at different startup events, and they go, beta testing, I never even heard of that. If only I had known. Or really, I can reply to my users' reviews if only I had known. And so our goal today is to try to make sure all of you here are aware of the toolkit that we offer on Google Play. So Gus actually introduced me to this saying recently. If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And what I really like about this is that what we want to do is to go it with you and to help you go faster. And we hope that through working with Google Play, you'll be able to go together and also go twice as fast. So we're going to talk about 4 different types of tools that are the most unique things that we have to offer developers, especially startups, on Google Play. So let's get started. So Google Play works a little bit differently, right? And I think one of the things that people need to know, especially if they've been on other app platforms before, is Google Play actually has some things that are a little bit different about it. So the earlier in your life you can find out about all the different features that we have, that may actually change how you want to move through your product development cycle. So the first thing that's important to know is that for any of you who have an app on Google Play, does anyone have an app on Google Play today, by the way? Okay. Does anyone have an app that's still in stealth mode or not on Google Play yet? Couple folks. So we're hoping to reach you a little bit earlier. So the most important thing for you to know is that you can publish your app on Play anytime you want. And developers tell us year after year that's one of the most important things to them, is that all of you are in control about when you can publish your app. There's no big wait or anything like that. And the next thing that you want to think about after that is this idea of beta testing and staged rollouts. So at Google, we have an app. We have lots of apps, and when we release them, we don't want to put them out there to all the users with just the initial version, right? What we want to do is to kind of roll them out more progressively and to get feedback along the way. So these 2 tools, beta testing and staged rollouts, are unique tools on Play that you can use to make sure that you get a really high quality result, and also kind of take control of your rollout. And so we want to walk you through how this is. And what we see from a lot of our most successful developers is they actually use these products every day, the beta testing and the staged rollouts. So for example, at Google, with basically every app update we roll out, we use staged rollouts, and we think that even startups can benefit from these sorts of things as well. We see when you use these practices, you can end up with a much higher quality result, a higher quality app, and a much better business return as well. So let's start by talking about beta testing. Is anyone here running a beta test or ever run one in the past? That's awesome. So we actually see with some of our most popular apps, the top 1,000 apps on Google Play, 60% of them are running a beta test right now. And so if you haven't tried a beta test before, here's basically the idea. You can distribute your app to a subset of users, and then you can get feedback earlier rather than just launching it to everyone. With beta testing, What's important here is users actually need to opt in and say, yes, I want to be a tester. And so this can be really important because it's not going to be a completely representative sample, but it will be kind of self-selecting power users, people who are willing to put up with bugs and ideally also give you feedback about how you need to improve. So you can test 2 different versions. We call them alpha and beta. You can view stats about them, and it's a great thing to do before you roll out in production. So let's talk about some of the unique features here. So users who are in a beta or alpha test cannot actually leave you a review. So this is important. You don't want them to leak anything or to hurt your star rating. That won't happen. If someone's opted in to be a tester, they can't give you reviews. So we want to go through a couple of the pieces of feedback we've gotten over the years to clear up any misconceptions that might be out there. So the most common thing we heard from you after we rolled out beta testing was, okay, this is cool, but I want to make it a lot easier to manage who's in and out of my beta test. So last year we announced something called open and closed betas. So if you want to allow anyone to join your beta, you can create what's called an open beta test. This way you'll just be able to let anyone join, and actually as of this week, now users can opt in directly to your open beta tests on your page in the Play Store. Your second option, if you still want to keep it in stealth mode, is to do what we call a closed beta. So in addition to Google Groups and Google Plus communities, you can also specify a list of email addresses. So that allows you to control only these people get access to my alpha or beta test. So by the way, if you haven't checked out yet, that's what it's actually going to look like in the Play Store. So for all of you who have a beta test, an open beta on Play, go check it out, and then you may want to update some of your documentation to your beta testers about how they can opt in. And we think this will make it a lot easier. And also for anyone who already has your app installed, if they happen to peruse your page in the Play Store again, they might see this, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to get more folks in your betas. Now, we mentioned earlier that when people are in a beta, they can't leave you a review, right? Super important. And for the whole time that beta testing's been out there, developers can collect feedback from users in a whole range of ways. Some people put some sort of a form in the app itself. Others provide an email address for collecting feedback. Other people have a discussion forum. And we added one new option this week, which is that users will be able to give you private feedback through the Play Store. So they go to the Play Store, and it's in the same place where they would be leaving a review, but it's actually private feedback. So you can see here that this user in the Play Store has provided private feedback to the developer, and when you go into the developer console, you'll be able to see the private beta feedback there as well. And again, this is not shown publicly. It does not affect your app's rating in any way. So back to the earlier point about going fast and going together, we announced earlier this week something that we're calling early access. And what this is a special place in the Play Store where users, early adopter users who want to try out the latest and greatest stuff, can go to see apps that are actually in beta. And the reason we launched this was we heard from a lot of startups, wow, beta testing sounds great. I'd love to get a bunch of people giving me early feedback on my app. But I'm a startup. I don't even have many users. How could I possibly grow a group of beta testers? So what we decided to do was to identify some of the most exciting apps that are out there, many of them from startups, and all of them haven't really been made publicly available on Google Play yet. So we handpicked them so that this way users can go there and be sure that they're finding out about really cool stuff that's actually still working pretty well, but be able to get that feedback to developers, get developers like you a bit more exposure, and to help you be able to iterate more quickly and improve your products. And this is a great way that we have a huge reach in the Play Store, and we're trying to put this to work for you to help you find early testers for your apps and get the feedback that you folks need to improve and get ready for a broader launch. Okay. And then, so you have your app, you did a beta test, you got some feedback, it's looking pretty good, and you're ready to roll out. So you roll out to everybody. And then once you've done that, the next time you want to roll out a new version, you can still beta test your new versions as well. But when you're ready to put new updates to your app out to everybody, you'll probably want to do what we do at Google and what we see a lot of our top partners do, which is doing a staged rollout. So I may not want to roll out to everyone on day one. Maybe I just want to start with 10%. Then I'll monitor the reviews that I'm getting. Maybe I'll use Firebase to monitor the crashes that are coming in. I'll see how it's doing, and if I feel confident, 20%, 30%, 50%, and then I'll roll it out to everyone. And here, if there's a major bug, or if people just really don't like the new color scheme my designer came up with, I can halt the rollout. I can immediately upload a new version if I need to, and then other people who didn't have the new version yet won't be affected by any negative issues that were in my latest update. One thing to keep in mind, though, when you are in a staged rollout, people can leave reviews. So be sure it is good before you start that. So another trend we've seen with developers is just the amount of time that all of you spend managing your Play Store reviews. So we would talk to developers and they say, look, the more users I get, the more reviews I get. And it's great, but I have to have someone sit there and read them all the time and then try to have that person, summarize back to the team to understand what do users like, what do they not like, what should we do next? And so over the years, we've been updating what we have to make it easier for you to manage. So one of the unique things we have is that you're actually able to reply to reviews on the Play Store. Has anyone done that, by the way? Anyone replied to a review on the Play Store? Has anyone thought about it but not done it yet? Yeah. It's worth considering. We definitely see that users who actually update their review after receiving a reply are actually increasing their review on average by 0.7 stars. So it's definitely a good thing to think about. So that exists. We've had, search on the reviews, a whole range of graphs. We recently rolled out email notifications so that if you get, someone updates their review again, you can find out. So all of these things are to try to make reviews more friendly, to help you be able to dive into what's happening with your reviews and how you can manage them better. Because every app review you get in the Play Store is really an opportunity to have a one-on-one interaction with a customer. And I know all of you care about your users as much as we do, and so having those tools to be able to talk to them or understand what's going on can be so important. So this year, what we're just rolling out now, and we announced at I/O this week, is automated ways to be able to extract more information out of the reviews for you. Because developers would tell us, well, I have to have someone sit there and go through literally hundreds of reviews, right? Not that exciting. And then how does that person report back? So we've taken our machine learning technologies and we're able to automatically summarize them. So we're doing a couple things. First of all, there's certain topics that are common across all apps and we see coming up in reviews all the time. Things like design, usability, app stability. And so what we're doing is automatically identifying any reviews that cite those sorts of factors, right? Are people talking about your app crashing? We'll be able to surface that to you so you can just dive in and see all the reviews that are related to, let's say, crashes. Or maybe you do a great new material design layout. You can look at all the feedback about design to see if users are liking your new layout. And then a lot of developers have asked us, well, are my reviews good? Does my app measure up? How do I compare to my peers? And so since we're able to look at your app across these common topics that happen to all apps, we can now actually tell you how your app's reviews in that particular subject compare to similar apps. So for example, are more people mentioning crashes in your app compared to the similar apps? Or more people mentioning design, for example. And then you can also see what the impact will be on your rating. So for example, we see a lot of people, if they have a lot of crashes that users are mentioning, that will be dragging their review down. Usually if there's crashes, it's more of a 1-star type of rating. But maybe a lot of people love your new design, and you can see that that's having a positive impact in pulling your rating up. And so that can be really helpful, so you can understand, if I want to get my rating up there, what are the aspects that I'm going to need to address? All right, I want to go back one. OK, I can't. But the other thing I wanted to mention about it is, oh, that's interesting. It was magic. So the other thing I wanted to mention about it, too, that is in addition to these common topics, your app probably has unique features about it, right? Maybe you have a racing game and you have different types of cars. Maybe you have a fitness app and you have features like pre-programmed workouts or calorie counters or instructional videos. And so these unique features of your app, we'll also pull them out with our machine learning and natural processing as well. So this way you can also see, okay, if I launched a new feature like a new type of car in my racing game, how often is that being mentioned? And then, more importantly, is that correlated with an increase or decrease in my app's rating? So by looking at all these things together, we want to just make it easier for you to see at a glance what people are saying about your app, and also to help you zoom in. We hear all the time from startups, I have so much to do, I'm overwhelmed with data, like just tell me what I should work on. And so we would love to hear your feedback and to understand if these new reports are helping you zoom in on what it is that you need to do next. Okay, so you have an app, you beta tested it, your reviews are looking pretty good, and now what you want to do is start to go bigger, right? And so you want to build your audience. So what we do on Google Play is we launched the store listing experiments feature last year. And this is a great way to be able to optimize your store listing. You want to know that it's working well. So what we do at Google is we test everything, and we wanted to roll this out to you guys as well. So here are some best practices with it. You want to have a hypothesis. Is it that your hypothesis is that your fitness app, people really like the training video capability, so you want to emphasize that, or it's something else. And then what you want to do is to be able to run your different experiments, see what the results are, run it all the way to the end. And then a great thing about startups is if your brand isn't already well established, you can be pretty bold in what you're willing to experiment on, right? A totally new icon, go for it. The big changes are what's going to get you the biggest payoff. So here's an example of how Rovio was able to use a series of experiments to get up to a pretty significant increase. By running these experiments, they had a double-digit improvement in their conversion rate on Play. And they had a lot of great things to say about how it impacted their business. So that brings us to Aviary. They're a startup in New York. They were acquired by Adobe in 2004, and they've been using some of the iteration tools that we just discussed. Let's take a look at this video.
I'm Avi Muchnick. I'm one of the co-founders of Aviary. There are thousands of photo editing apps out there. What we've always looked to do is simplify the experience for the end user. We want something that no matter what your background in tech is, you could just literally pick it up and in less than 6 seconds understand how to use it and make your photos look great. One of the most amazing things about the Android platform is our communication with our users. It's not really us responding to bug reports that we see, it's really this ongoing two-way dialogue we have with people, both through beta tests and also through ratings and reviews. We can see things as they're happening in real time. We can talk with our community to find out what features they like and what they don't like, and what things they would love to see in the app that we haven't even thought of, and implement that in real time.
Working with the Android Dev Console has been amazing compared to other platforms in particular. With Android, we are able to see metrics about them, we're able to search through them, we're able to actually respond to users. With the new tools, I would say that we're able to identify issues twice as fast. It makes it easy for us to search through the reviews, contact users when we need to, get more information from them, and just in general, it has saved me a tremendous amount of time, anywhere between 5 to 10 hours a week.
Android in general is hugely impactful to the Aviary team. It's over 2/3 of our user base. We use search within reviews every day. We use it to validate new features. For example, we recently released a new Discover feature. We'll search Discover to see what users are saying about that and let us know if they like it or if there are problems with it, and that helps us make product decisions. The ratings and reviews feature has been immensely impactful, having the ability to quickly drill into issues by device, by app version, by Android version, and then also anecdotally sift through what users are saying, and the actual words they're using is pretty unique to the platform, and it helps us develop much more quickly.
Responding to users in the Dev Console has been immensely impactful for us. For instance, recently we released a version that resolved a pretty major bug that was affecting many of our users. I went into the Dev Console, responded to all of the people who were experiencing the bug, and about 50% of them actually went back in and ended up updating the review.
One of the things I love about building for the Android platform is how quickly we can test and deploy on it. We have this fantastic beta community on Android that can test out new features.
And that helps us identify bugs or what features they like or don't like much more quickly. Being able to do that allows us to iterate 2 to 3 times faster on Android compared to other platforms, which is hugely impactful for our app. Photo Editor by Aviary is meant to be a dead simple but powerful photo editing tool. Having that dialogue with our users through the tools the developer console and the Play Store gives us, we're able to iterate much faster and deliver on an easy, simple interface, which is really powerful for us.
All right, thank you very much. It's been great talking with all of you, and we're really excited to see what comes up next for all of you. I hope also all of you will download the Play Console app on Google Play and keep giving us your feedback about how we can get better for startups. Thank you.